the resort we were at? They gotta be from where they at. Yeah. Oh, look at the plankton she was talking about. Where? You're not going to take back? Okay.
Là những nhà la, là những nhà la.
What? Santa Claus. to go in 1841. Okay, and they did all kinds of research, not only here but in Central America too. But they included also beautiful trees and lines of the places they were just amazing work. So we picture this building covered with bushes and trees and weeds. You know what's so terrible out here? That there's so much humidity that when the vegetation begins to crawl all over this, the roots cling into the stone, and with the rain, they start expanding. So they expand, they start cracking the stone, and then it crumbles down. So they walk around with these little piles. Never mind if they fall down. All right, and well, and by 1917, when the Carnegie Institution of Washington, along with the Mexican government, decided to do all this research, they would take all the buildings and start to put them together. But you know, I remember my very first time here in Chichen Itza. One of my passengers, just like yourself, they asked me, how much does that weigh? I thought I had read it all, but I didn't. I thought that was the question of the year at that moment. Anyway, I thought they were teasing me, so I answered, do you want to know with all the people on it? Anyway, they didn't think it was very amusing, but you know what happens? These people were under the impression that the buildings were made out of bricks or Lego blocks. That would take forever to do. So mines were really smart. All those stones that we can see, they're cut one by one in a rectangular piece, bless you, and they're flattened. Some of them will have beautiful carvings on them, but mostly they're flattened. Now the back part of the stone has a cone shape to it. The rest of the inside filling is regular rough cut stone. It's blended with mortar, which is crushed stone, sand, lime, and water to make something compact. Ties it together very well. So what happens when an archaeologist has to do this type of research and restoration? What they do is they take only the carved stones and start putting a jigsaw puzzle together. They will number all the stones and begin to apply cement to put them in their correct place. Now what we're looking at, this temple of Kukulkan. You take a look, you know that this is not a two-sided
Thì hầu có sự có những mình chia thì hầu là gì? Phải gọi là thì hầu si phong. Trong chung chung hầu đó. Không giỏi rồi. Như xịt có dập đó.
And it's made up of 9 pieces, 9 pairs platforms. So on one side of the staircase you have 9, on the other side you have another 9. That would give you a total of 18 months. The months of a solar year. Mayans had 18 months of only 20 days each. At the very, very top of the building you see these little rectangular squiggles. There's only 4 left over because of Mayans being so strict with their static. You can find that there's one piece missing on your right hand side. Okay, to make a total of 5 on each side. Representing the number of days in a month. Every staircase that you see there is made up of 91 steps. Okay, so that times 4 is 364. But if you take a look at the people at the very top, they have a terrified look on their face. That's because there's one last step at the very, very top that is taller than all the others and goes all around the pyramid to give you number 365. Okay, but will make the difference from where you can see the staircase and where you cannot. When you're all the way at the top, you cannot see where that staircase is. You can kind of peek out, take the first step down, and then see it. So it's very steep, very, very steep. Now, on each what do you call this platform, there's these little rectangular pieces of decoration. There are a total of 26 on either side of the staircase to give on each facade 52 decorations, which is what they consider to be the cycle of life, okay, the 52-year period. Now, when this was being renovated, when it was being restored, they realized that there was another pyramid inside. This pyramid is exactly like the one outside, but it's shorter. It only goes up to the 7th layer. And over towards the north is that way. You have a little opening out there. They don't let anything go in there anymore. But there's a little doorway that leads you into the staircase. And you will climb up 63 steps to get to the up there chamber. Okay. Since we can't go in there anymore, I managed to obtain a little postcard with the picture of that room. This is what it looks like inside. Its toenails is decorated with conch. Okay, and right behind that one you have like a little throne, but it's shaped like a jaguar. It's all painted in red, and it has 73 spots of jade to decorate his eyes and his freckles. All right, now with the people who were, when we were allowed to go in there, you know, like if you're claustrophobic or you have heart problems, you can't go in there because it's very suffocating. Okay, and then once you're up there, you can't take pictures of it because the paint, if you take a picture with flash, it's stronger than sunlight, so it bleaches it. Okay, a lot of the buildings you see around us today, we're not allowed to climb them anymore. Okay, and that's because so many people come here that we've created a lot of destruction without even wanting to. But you know, it's just the natural erosion of the soil. This was like a combination of soccer and basketball. These people, though, could not touch the ball with their hands. So ever since they were born, they've been trained into learning how to toss the ball using their knees, their hips, their shoulders, their elbows, and they would try to put it through the hoops that are 15 feet above the ground on either side. Do you see that? Okay. Well, Diego de Lara, he was that archbishop that wrote the book called The Relations of the Kings of Africa. He was able to present a lot of these games. And he told us very important facts. One of them is that they only played while the sun was out. In other words, these rituals will start in the morning at dawn, and if by the end of the day nobody had festivals, he would be adjourned for the next day. And they can go on playing for days. There was only one goal to be practiced. Okay? And then the third thing is that it wasn't something for all the masses to see. It was something only for the presence among the elite. Oh, and another thing he tells us is that they were two teams playing against each other. But people from all the nearby Mesoamerican countries were invited to presence or to practice this game. In other words, it's like an all-star game. When we get closer to the carvings, we're going to see something really special. People are wearing the same costumes. The same costumes. Like padding around their shoulders, around their elbows, their hips, their knees, and their feet. But their faces, their nose rings, their headdresses, and their earrings, they're different. The person that is carved on the stone, you're going to find that he is facing that way. Okay, if you take a look at his face, he has a headdress made up of an animal head with feathers sticking out of it. He has a straight nose ring and a rectangular earring. But then I want you to take a look at the person right behind him. He has a face with a nose ring that looks like an upside down pyramid. Okay, his headdress is made up of a huge animal head from where his face is emerging from, and feathers stick out of it. Okay, the person behind him, he just has kind of like a yield, and he has a circular or semicircular nose ring. This is what I was trying to explain before, that all the people that we see here belong to different families. The rest of their costume is alike. They have padding around their shoulders, around their arms, around their waistline, and from their waistline they have a phallic symbol, which is a fertility symbol. They have padding around their kneecaps and on their sandals. Now all of these people are holding something in their hand, this little paddle, which can be made out of wood or out of the chewing gum tree, will have on one side the shape of an animal face, like a jaguar, a bat, a turtle, fish, you know, different faces that you can be able to see there. Now, I thought that this was something that they would carry to hit the ball with, and that would be impossible, because these pieces of stone weigh up to 15 pounds. Okay, so it would be difficult to hit it like a ball, like a ping pong ball or something like that. Anyway, I want to remind you that rubber doesn't weigh very much. Okay, I'm sorry, rubber bounces very easily, although it's very heavy. You know, this ball that mine's tossed back and forth weighed 4 to 6 pounds. Okay, and we're gonna find that these people would not allow the ball to hit the ground. They would have to hit it with all these different parts of their bodies, but this was an incredible stunt at times when the ball was coming towards them only a few inches above the ground. Therefore, they would use this little paddle to place on the ground and balance their weight so they can be capable of hitting it, maybe with this part of their calf, or with this part of their thigh, or maybe with their elbow, okay, while it was only a few inches above the ground. All right, now we're gonna find that there are 7 ball fields here in Chichen Itza. This is the biggest one in Mesoamerica, throughout this part of Middle America. And in this case, we have 14 players. In other places, there's only 4. In others, there's 6, depending on the dimension of the ball game. And we only have one person who's in a kneeling position, which is over here towards the middle. I don't know if you can tell, he's kneeling only on one knee. And as you start looking towards the top, you're going to notice that his head is missing. Instead of his head, you're going to find 7 serpents emerging from it. And one of the middle serpent becomes a branch of a tree that splits in the middle and comes all the way around the carving where fruits and vegetables will emerge from. In the middle part, we're going to be able to find the ball, which is a circle, a solar plate, with a carving of a skull whose mouth is partially open, and symbols of communication are emerging. On the other side, we're going to find these other players which are facing this way. Now, if you take a look at the first player, you can see his nose ring straight, his headdress, okay? But if you start looking downwards, you're going to see that his hand, he's not holding that little paddle. Instead, in his right hand, he's holding a knife, okay? And on his other hand, like this, just like I'm holding my water, he's holding that person's head. Can you all see that? Can you see the head of the human head back there? Okay, so how are we supposed to interpret all of this? You know, we've been talking a lot about human sacrifice today. We've been talking about all these people who had to be prepared for it. Do you think you were going to waste your time on someone who wasn't worthwhile to train them physically, psychologically, mentally for this purpose and offer him to your God to bring them something for you? Okay, probably not. And Mayan people used to think that the person who was offered to their gods had a direct flight to paradise. There's another thing that we find out: there was only one goal to be practiced, and it was, you know, a privilege to die. Therefore, we're going to suppose that the person that is shown here without a head is the person who had passed the ball through the hoop. And in his voyage to the heavens, okay, while he was dying, he was able to speak to the gods to convince them that the blood that he is shedding in the shape of serpents, a symbol of fertility, will fall to the earth and fertilize the land for his people to bring food to his society. That's the reason why the people who were involved in human sacrifice were always known to be as heroes among their own cities. Okay, it was something to be worshipped about. Okay, do you have any questions? Any questions?
You go.
Well, let me explain what this is. This symbol is a symbol for a 52-year cycle, which is a heap of hemp tied up in a knot and a flower blooming from it. What this stands for is that River Hamai is already to the end of the world, but something like a cycle that would have a chance to reflourish. That's the idea of the cycle of life. Over on this section, we have the first month of the solar year, which is called Pop. Pop in the Nahuatl language would be a petate. This is something surprising to a lot of people. The hammocks that we sleep on today were not native to the Mayas. The hammocks came about a century ago when people from the Caribbean islands came to work in our hemp fields. We like hammocks so much today that we don't sleep in them. You know, we're born in them, we die in them, we even reproduce in them. Okay, so we might have to see how later on that. Anyway, I had last hammock accident about 3 years ago. Anyway, we're going to find that Mayans used to sleep on floor mats, ropes that were weaved either with this fiber called hemp or with the palm tree in your hands. Okay, that same substance. Now, over here in the middle, what we're going to see is a huge bird. Okay, you can see the feathers on the outside part of it. Down here, you can see the 2 claws. He's what you would say pigeon-toed. Yes. And then in the middle, you have a serpent head with an open mouth and his bifid tongue, the split tongue, coming out. Now in the central part, you have a human face with a nose ring and earrings. Okay, this is another way of representing Kukulkan. It's a trinity, a bird, a serpent, a man.
Well, the astronomers knew, that Venus is right in the middle of the constellation when the planet.
Headdresses with feathers on it. They'll have a conic tip headdress on it, like a Buddha. Really, really unusual. All right, and something else. A lot of scientists, a lot of historians try to tell us that Mayas and Toltecs fought ever since they got here. That the Toltecs came and took over the Mayas. But that's kind of hard to believe. First of all, we're talking about thousands of kilometers away. Okay, in a short period of time. I mean, they cannot have the strength to come along and just conquer another nation, especially when both of them were suffering a terrible cultural collapse. There was no ruling among them. Second, we're going to find that on some of the architectural features, they combine elements. Like we know that Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl is something that originates from the central part of Mexico. But you know who's Maya's favorite god? Chac, rain god. And Chac is represented at the corners of the same building. You see those hooks that are emerging from there? The hooks are supposed to be a huge nose. And right on the side of the nose, you have his eyes. Okay, you have his lashes. You have his whiskers, his mouth and teeth, earrings. This is what we call mosaic decoration. The whole rain god mask is made up of 30 pieces of stone. They had to be carved out in a quarry, okay, in a precise size and position. So when they came here and put it together, it fit right into place. All right. So there was a lot of elaboration of stone. Okay. All right. So this is how we find the Kukulkan, Chac were here together, and the wars began until after, you know, they mingled for a while after that great marriage. Now take a look over here. We already saw two facades of the main pyramid that look nice and clean. We're going to see two sides right now, which are pretty nasty. A lot of the stones from that coverings are missing. And the reason why they look so bad is because a lot of the original stones were taken from here. Not very far from where we're standing now, that's kind of close to the Mayan buildings. You will be able to find out where the Mayan language and when he first came, he didn't go to a quarry to get stones. He came here and took some of the stones to build it instead. That was that. But from here, we can easily see what I was talking about before, that these are not Lego blocks. You see how the inside feeling is regular rough stone? You get it from the quarry and just blend it up with mortar to keep it together. Now, I really suggest that we get going to the other side to see the observatory before it starts to rain. That all of this was here, because it was all covered with bushes and trees. Now look at this. Look at how the stone seems to look red. Okay, the type of soil that is in this part of Chichen Itza is red, kankap we call it, and they have just barely restored it, so that's why it's still, you know, pretty much with color on it. But this has only been finished, you know, for about a year, and look at how the weeds are already starting to grow in between the stones. Look at all the massive filling, and look at the inside part. This is a tomb. Okay, in order to take care of the deceased, you know, they would have different ways of burying their dead. Well, not burying their dead, but taking care of the deceased. They were basically covered with stones, okay, but forming an archway. Remember what I was telling you, that Toltecas used to use these pillars with flat ceilings, and after a while they caved in? Mayans, you go into their buildings, and they're very little chambers, very, very little. But they have a triangular shape to it like this. Okay, we call it a false arch because when we walk into these buildings, the temperature drops to 75 degrees. Cool. So even if it's like 105 outside, it's very cool inside the homes. And if you notice, all the edge stones there, they look like boomerangs or capital L's. So you have one side of the stone with little filling stones on either side, and the other one is tilted and smooth to form the archway. Now at the very top, you have one stone that closes at the top, but it's not a keystone. Like in Valladolid, we found the Roman arch. Those stones there, they have a trapezoid shape to it. And if we were to go and take it out, all those Valladolid buildings will collapse. I got to see when they were restoring this building, and all that inside part was intact, but the top stone was missing. Okay, so you know what that means? That the weight of the building was held up by the thick walls and not by one stone. Okay, so that was real smart, and it kept the buildings going for a long period of time. Anyway, let me tell you the different kinds of burials. One of them was with stones over the deceased, with some of their belongings, because they thought food, clothing, drink, ceramics, practically everything they owned was needed for that journey to the infraworld, the 9 levels, and then the 13 heavens to reach paradise. Mayans also practice a great deal of cremation. You know, a lot of people think that Mayans disappeared because they don't find too many cemeteries. Okay, but remember, they used to incinerate their bodies, and then they would keep them into urns and then cover it with stone to be protected. Back there, the tall building that we're going to be walking by right now, they had a high priest that was buried in a fetal position, also with some of their belongings. Okay, but they have a whole huge pyramid that covers, because it was a very important person. But what happened to the people of the common class, just regular people? Remember I told you about the petates, the floor mats the Mayans used to sleep on? Some of the expressions that I hear you say when you refer to the dead, like, he kicked the bucket or he croaked. In Mexico, you know what we say? We say se petateó. Means he got rolled up in the petate. He got rolled up in the poor man, because this is what a few decades ago we were still doing this. The poor man died. We rolled it up in his bed with some of the things he owned, and on the stone platform where you were to build your house, that's where he was put in. So that way the whole family guided his soul through paradise with constant prayers, with constant offerings, okay? And that's why we don't find cemeteries, because they're all right there where we live, okay? That's the answer. All right, let's get started. And something else that you can barely see today are numbers. Can you see white numbers printed on there? Okay, remember I was telling you how archaeologists have to put a puzzle together? So before they actually do all this, they had to take all the stones and spread them out all the way out here and number them, okay? The hard part is to keep them in that condition, okay? We already stopped allowing people to climb it because, you know, it was just too much destruction, but weeds are already starting to grow in some of the ledges there, okay? So we have to be constantly cleaning it. They have put it back.
They restore and then they have to. You can't get to them. Really can.
Thì咁其實要幾多人嚟嘅？嗰時有啲係嗰個力量係咪？咁就係咁
We're talking about 2,500 square kilometers. Okay, so what we're seeing right now is what you would call a Washington, D.C. Okay, all the public buildings, religious buildings, administration offices, IRS offices, observatory, and scientific things. And then we have the rings of society. Let's start walking towards the jungle, and you'll be able to find, you know, how the classes are going. All of this was being created by the slave class. Okay, so they were the ones that come all the way out here every day, practice their journey, putting their stones together and going back home. The reason why not too many people can settle in such a very important piece of land is because of the lack of water. You know, we have to distribute people among sinkholes. You have to live close to a sinkhole. It's not imagine trying to get water. You know, for your house, you have to walk, you know, miles and miles to get it. So that's the reason, you know, for their settlements. Wherever there's sinkholes, you'll find people. These little mounds that we just walked by, just to give you an idea of what archaeologists first worked with. This is what everything used to look like when we were most of it. Okay, so we have to take all the trees off, all the roots, and then begin to put the stones together. Let me tell you that here in Chichen Itza, it's very easy to read a guidebook and notice what you're looking at. Why? Because look at that one, the monument, look at that one, the observatory. Why? Because when you look at them, it gives you that impression. You know, with some of the building over there in the back, okay, that we call the nunnery. This is where the spicy scene of Against the Odds took place with Rachel Ward and Jeff Bridges, so if you remember that. And the reason why we call it a nunnery is because it has many stories and it has hallways with many chambers. In 1868, Augustus Lefferts John came out here and began to dynamite through the building to see if there were any treasures. Guess what? There was no treasures. But he found that the building was built one layer on top of another, making it bigger and wider each time.